All right, let's take a look at this here. This was quiz over specifically 7.2, ellipses and circles. This is going to be on the exam. First problem here, we had to graph an ellipse. So the way we knew it was an ellipse was just the format. It was set up in this format with the set equal to 1. That's the first big giveaway. And then our this is our a squared and b squared on the bottom here. That kind of tells us we're going to have something that's not going to be circular. So our a squared is equal to 16, which means a is equal to 4. Our b squared is equal to 25, which means b is equal to 5. So this tells us what it's going to do in the y direction. This tells us what it's going to do in the x direction, or up or down, left and right. And our center, remember this is set up in a x minus h, y minus k format. So our center is at h comma k, and these here are distances from the center, left, right, or up and down. So you can see our center is going to be at positive 3, positive 1, because we do the opposite. X minus h, x minus k, or basically, what's the x value that makes this equal to 0? What's the y value that makes that equal to 0? So 3, 1 is right here. So this says go 4 to the left, 4 to the right from that point. So that would be out here and over here, 4 to the left, 4 to the right. And then here we have going 5 up and 5 down from that point. So that would be 5 up and 5 down would be right here. So after that, we've got basically everything we need. We just carefully draw in our ellipse. You can see it's definitely not circular there. It doesn't have to be perfect when you draw it. You just need the basics. But let's list off these other things. We already had the center here. Vertices, that's these guys here and here. But some are vertices, some are co-vertices. The vertices go along the length that's the longest, which is this right here. So this right here is our major axis, and these are the vertices. So vertices, if we want to list them off, are going to be up here. It looks like it's at 3, 6 at the top, and then at the bottom it's at 3, negative 4. So our co-vertices are going to be the ones on the left and the right, here and here. All right, so our co-vertices looks like one of them is over at 7, 1, and the other one is at negative 1, 1. Okay, and so we took care of center, vertices, co-vertices, length of the major axis. That's this length right here. So our major axis length, axis, not axes, looks like it's, well, here's the one way you can look at it. It's going up 5 and down 5, so that's 10. That's the length of 10. And the minor axis then, going left or right, but we're going left and right 4 each direction, so that's going to be 8 for that. So there's our length of our minor and major axis. Then we sketched it. So that's everything you needed. It had a lot of points on that one. I probably won't ask that much on the exam, just we don't have time, but it would probably be asking you bits and pieces about a function that starts off looking like this. All right, let's try looking at this one here with the equation ellipse in standard form by completing the square. This one, some of you had trouble with. It's definitely one of the tougher ones, and this is something where you may have to start with this, and then it might be multiple choice. It might be just write the equation, but you're going to have to somehow figure out if that looks like maybe a graph I give you. So let's go ahead and just work through the completing the square aspect of this one. We got to group together all of our x's, so 16x squared minus 32x. Group together our y's, plus 9y squared plus 36y. Going to take this 92 and bring it to the other side. So negative 92 turns into positive 92. And here is the key. You're going to group these together individually, but you only want to factor a number off of this. We don't want anything out here in front of the squared term, so the x squared and the y squared. So I'm going to factor that off of just the x's and just the y's. So that means on this one I'm factoring off a 16 and end up with x squared minus 2x left on the inside. Now I'm going to leave a little space for the completing the square part, but then I'm going to add to this, now factoring off the 9 off the y squared, but what am I left with? Y squared plus 4y, leave a little space for completing the square, 92 over here. That's the key there, is getting those off of there, then completing the square. So my next step here is going to have the 16 and something, some x something squared, and this 9, and then y something squared. And we'll figure out what's going to happen here and here in a second. But now I got to fill in these blanks, like what's going to go here and what's going to go here. Okay, so remember, we take half of our middle term here, which would be -1, and then we square it, which would be +1. I'm going to take half of my middle term here, the coefficient, which is 4, so that's +2. I'm going to square it, so that's +4. But here is the trick. I need to actually, to balance this out on this side of the equation, I need to take the 16 times the 1 that I just added in there, and the 9 times the 4 that I just added in there. And those are what I have to put on the other side to keep it balanced. So I'm going to add to this 16 times the 1 plus 9 times the 4. So you put all those together, it's going to be, what, 92 plus 16 plus 36, which is, I believe, going to be 144. 144 if you do that. So we're almost there. We got one last step. Because remember, the equation of ellipse in standard form, that's that x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. So it's the 1 part that kind of helps us figure out we got to do something with this 144 over here. But how do we get rid of 144 and turn it into 1? Divide everything by 144. So it turns out, when we do that, 16 over 144 reduces into x minus 1 squared over 9. 16 144ths is 9. And then 9 over 144 is 16. Okay? In other words, 9 times 16 is 144, if that makes sense. Then y plus 2 squared on top. And now I have equals 1 over here. That's everything we need. If we wanted to graph this now, we could. We'd see what our a squared is. We see what our b squared is. We can see what our h and our k are going to be, and it'd be enough for us to graph this ellipse. That was a tough one. That was one of the tougher ones you had here. The rest of these, you kind of had to start with some information and build it out to come up with the standard form of the equation. So some of these that help to sketch it out, like say this one right here, we can actually draw in the vertices and co-vertices. If we did that, if you think about this one here, the vertices are at 1, 6, and 1, -10. So 1, 6, let's say it's up here like this, and then 1, -10, somewhere below it, 1, -10. And then those are the vertices. And then the co-vertices, and if we wanted to draw this in here, I could draw a set of axes here if we want. So you can kind of see what it looked like. It'd be like this. So this would be 1, this would be up 6, this would be down at -10. And then at 3, -2, 1, 2, 3, and -2, we'd have one side, and then at -1, -2, we'd have our other side. So if you drew this on graph paper, you'd have your ellipse that look like this. And you kind of have everything you need now to figure out, like, what's your center? It's crossing right through the middle here. Notice it's the thing here that stays constant with these. 1 and 1, and then over here with -2, -2, that's your h and your k. Okay? In other words, your center is just going to be 1, -2. So you know this much already if you're writing out your equation. It'd be x minus 1 squared over something, we'll figure that in a second, and then y plus 2 squared over something equals 1. That's where the h and the k there come in. Okay, but in terms of how far you're going each direction, or for the x direction, in other words, I got to figure out what my a value is right here. But I'm going from 1 to 3, so it looks like a equals 2. So remember, what goes on the bottom is a squared, which would be 4. That's what goes on the bottom of this fraction here. So there'll be 4 underneath here, our a squared. We need our b squared under here. So I got to figure out the distance from the center going up or down for that one. But that's pretty easy. Let's just take a look here. We're going from here, that's at -2, up to 6. That's the distance of 8. Or from -2 down to 10, distance of 8. So our b equals 8, which means b squared equals, if I can get this to focus here, 64. There's our b squared. So that's everything we need. We can do the same thing basically with this one. It's just we're already given the drawing. If you draw in your major and minor axes here, you can see they intersect right here at point 2, 3. Okay, so that means our center is at 2, 3, which means h is 2, k is 3. So if I'm writing out the top part, it'd be x minus 2 squared and y minus 3 squared equals 1. Now I just got to figure out how far am I going in the x direction here. Looks like I'm going 5, so that's our a. Square that, that's what goes on the bottom here, our a squared. How far up and down are we going? Looks like I'm going 4, that's our b. So b squared would be 16. Pretty simple, and a lot of you guys did pretty good on that problem. Now we're going into the circle stuff. Circles are, in my opinion, are easier than doing the ellipses. Remember, this is our r squared here. So if r squared equals 9, that means r is equal to 3. This is our center here. It's x minus h, y minus k. So it looks like h is 3, k is a negative 3. So there's our center. We find our center. 3, negative 3, that is right here. We're going a radius of 3, so we're going over 3, up 3, down 3, and we just carefully draw a circle in there as best we can, and that's it. Pretty simple. This other one, we had to do a little bit of, we got to write the standard form of each circle. The first one, we had to complete the square. It's a little bit easier than doing it with the ellipse. We still want to group things, x squared plus 16x, and then leave a little space, plus the y squared minus 12y, leave a little space, bring that 51 to the other side and make it negative 51, but we don't have to worry about that factor on the outside of the parentheses on this. We can jump right into completing the square here. So this one, x plus something quantity squared, remember we have it, so that's going to be 8, and then we square it, so that's plus 64. So I'm going to continue this here, so this is going to be the same deal. It's going to be y and then something squared, but I take this negative 12 and I have it, so that's a minus 6. Then I square it, that's plus 36. But I got to balance that out on the other side, so I have to add 64 and 36 to the other side as well. Okay, so that means I end up with, over here, negative 51 plus 64 plus 36 is 49. And that's pretty much it. I'll rewrite it a little prettier. X plus 8 squared plus y minus 6 squared equals 49. So you can see our center would be at negative 8, positive 6 with a radius of 7, because that's r squared, remember, so square root that to get the radius. All right, this next one here was actually really easy. If you remembered that, remember, we're trying to come up with the equation for this. So we've got the center already. We know it's x minus 12 squared plus y minus 12 squared. We just got to figure out what is r squared equal to, okay? But we are given that the area equals 4 pi. So if area equals 4 pi, but it's a circle, so the area also equals pi r squared, we take this chunk right here and we solve for r, which is pretty easy because these pi's cancel out and we're just right away left with 4 equals r squared. But remember, we're actually trying to figure out what r squared is. I mean, we could find r, but we need r squared, so we've got it already. We could just say that this is 4. Put r squared equals 4 in there, and there's your answer. Pretty easy when you realize it's that simple. Then the other one here had to do with a tangent, so it's a little bit different. You're given the center, though, so that makes it easy, right? Your h is 0, your k is 10, so you know this much already. X minus 0 squared plus y minus 10 squared equals some r squared. So we just got to figure out what r is, okay? And we're told it's tangent to some x equals a negative 7. So this is where it helps to graph it out, okay? Center at 0, 10. So if I'm drawing this here, somewhere up here at 10, 0, 10 right here is our center of our circle. And it's tangent to x equals a negative 7. Well, where's that at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's a negative 7. And it's saying this line right here, the circle, is tangent to it. So if this is the center of our circle right here, it means this circle needs to go out and touch it like that. It has to be that distance away. But we're going from 0 to -7, so it looks like our radius has to be 7 to get to that tangent point. So that's pretty easy. If r equals 7, then r squared equals 49. So there's your number you put there, 49. And of course, you could rewrite this without the x minus 0. Be best write as x squared plus y minus 10 squared equals 49 as your final answer. All right, and then lastly here, here's our last one, yep. Lastly, number 9, just had to, again, do the equation for this one, but if you kind of cross over here and here, kind of create, draw in two diameters, see where they intersect. You can see they intersect right here at, what is it, -1, 2. So that's our h and k. H is -1, k is 2. So if we're writing our equation, it's going to be x minus h, which is minus a -1, so it's +1 squared, plus y minus 2 squared equals our radius squared. Well, let's look at our radius. Looks like we're going out, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. R equals 5, so r squared equals 25. There we go. That's pretty much it. So make sure you look at these. I think a lot of you are going to look back at them and be like, oh yeah, I remember how to do those, but make sure you try them out and maybe even try redoing this quiz and see how you do with it.